Hi everybody. This afternoon we're going to talk about immigration, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction to immigration concepts overall, and then we'll take some specific notes on the two immigrant groups from this chapter that we're focusing on, which are the Chinese and the new immigrants that come from South and Eastern Europe. So let's start with a few important definitions regarding immigration. First of all, there's a difference between immigration and emigration. Immigration is the act of coming into a new country, and emigration is the act of leaving the old country. So if you are coming into America, you're an immigrant, but say you came from France, you're an emigrant from France. Obviously, when we talk about immigration, there's a connotation that we immediately go to in our brains, which is illegal. And the vast majority of immigrants that come to the United States are legal. They come here with government permission, they have documentation to be here. It's usually a student visa or a work visa or some sort of guest worker authorization. And many people also become permanent, what we call permanent resident aliens. They have green cards, which is a legal document that allows them to live here permanently, but they are not American citizens. They are citizens of another country who have permanent legal status here in the United States. And of course you have illegal immigrants, and these are people who are in the country and don't have government permission to be here. And I think it's different than we often consider it to be, because we think that illegal immigrants are all people who are coming over the border illegally. They're sneaking in by cover of darkness or in a truck or somehow getting smuggled into the country, and that is true. Some people get in that way. But a vast majority of illegal immigrants that we deal with are actually people who were here legally and overstayed their visa or their permission to be here, their documents expired, their circumstances or their status changed. And so that's often something that's unintentional. Either they moved and they didn't realize that their visa was expiring and government agencies could not get a hold of them, or they simply forgot to re-register or to reapply. There are a lot of reasons why you could have illegal status in the United States. So I think that the stereotype is that all illegal immigrants are, the ones that are sneaking across the border, when in fact there are lots of different ways that you could be considered an illegal immigrant. So why do people come to America? We know that America is a very popular destination for people from all over the world, from various cultures. I think obviously, there are reasons that people have to leave their home countries. We call those push factors. These are problems at home or circumstances in their home country that force them to leave and to seek out a new home. It could be anything from natural disasters to ethnic violence to war to famine to, like most recently, a lot of the immigrant teenagers that we're seeing come to the United States are escaping gang violence and drugs from the cartels in Central America, most notably El Salvador. And then there are pull factors, those are like the factors that attract people to the United States. So your typical ones are going to be economic opportunity, freedom, and that freedom comes in all different ways. Freedom of property ownership, if you're maybe a woman in a country where women don't have a lot of rights, the freedom of gender equality, perhaps even freedom of religion, to practice your religion freely, because maybe that religion is a minority religion in your home country and you don't have the right to practice it freely. But anyway, most people who come to the United States are coming here because of a combination of these two things: pressures to leave their homeland and the attractiveness of America as a new home. But I think it should be mentioned as well that there are an awful lot of people that come to America that didn't want to leave their home country. They were forced out for some reason. Maybe they were political refugees because they had no safe place to stay in that country. They would rather stay in their home country, but the circumstances don't allow it. So they end up coming to the United States. Some common themes that we see, no matter what era or what immigrant group we're talking about, is that immigrants are going to face discrimination and nativism when they get here. And that's ironic in a way, because America is a nation of immigrants. Nobody is originally from here unless you're Native American, but at the same time, every new group that comes in is going to face this discrimination. And then those who are born here are always going to favor themselves over the newcomers. The second factor that we need to take into account is that every new immigrant group, when they come in, is going to go through a process of acculturation. And this is when they're trying to adjust to the new culture. They're learning the language. They might be making slight changes to their eating habits, to their social habits, to the way that they wear their clothing. Something as simple as like going to an American sporting event, or eating at an American fast food restaurant, or listening to American music. Those could be small bits of the acculturation process. And a lot of new immigrants have a hard time with this because they're struggling to kind of hang on to their old culture. They don't want to abandon it completely. They also want to fit in. One of the saving graces for new immigrants, if they have kids, if a family comes over here, is that their kids tend to get involved in school where they learn English and they learn the customs a lot more quickly, and so they help their parents to adjust. I can't tell you how many times that I've been in meetings with parents who speak languages other than English, and they bring their kids along to translate for them. The kids are a huge help in trying to, help their parents just kind of navigate the new culture and the new system. Really quick story. It can work the other way too. Kids can sometimes take advantage of their immigrant parents for not knowing the language. My grandfather was a child of 2 Italian immigrants, and when World War II broke out, he really wanted to go and fight, but he wasn't old enough. He was only 17, and you had to be 18 to enlist. So he brought home a waiver that you could have your parents sign to let you get into the military under 18. And they didn't speak any English, and they were illiterate, and he told them that it was his school report card and that they needed to sign it for him to bring back to school. So they signed the waiver form, and the next day he enlisted. Luckily, he made it back in one piece, but at the same time, he totally played them because he knew the language and the culture and they didn't. So sometimes that can happen as well. Assimilation is the third step. This is really when you're trying to become a mainstream American. So you're trying to get rid of your old characteristics. You're trying to get rid of your accent. You're trying to get rid of the old style of clothing. You're not eating the foods from your home country anymore. You're not necessarily listening to the music from your home culture anymore. You're trying to blend in. So you're shedding any of those foreign characteristics and accepting American cultural ideals. For a long time, this was what people wanted to do. They did lots of things. They changed their names, both their first and their last name, to sound more American. They really wanted to hide their foreign past, and that was part of the assimilation process. So because assimilation was the norm and so many different people were trying to become mainstreamed, we came up with this melting pot analogy, which is the concept that we're all blending into one homogeneous group. And this was really sort of the model for America up until the 1970s, when people started to realize that if we're truly a melting pot, that means that we're all becoming the same. And we're not all the same. We know that we have different cultural characteristics that we all contribute to America. So the melting pot idea, it implies that somehow we've all become exactly the same, one substance with no discernible shape, size, difference, texture, and that's not really what we are. And so we've actually moved into more of a model of cultural pluralism now. Cultural pluralism is the concept that you don't completely shed your old customs and your old characteristics, but you add American customs to the ones that you already have. And so sometimes we see immigrant adults who, as children, they try to shed their foreignness or shed their native culture, and they go back and they try to rediscover it as adults. Children and grandchildren of immigrants often do this too because they feel like they don't know anything about their ethnic past, so they try to reconnect with their roots, either by traveling to the country of their grandparents' birth or doing a family tree or genealogy to discover what their ethnic roots are. And so now we're into more of a model post-1970 that we embrace the different ethnicities and we embrace the different cultural backgrounds of people, and we kind of celebrate ourselves as hyphenated Americans. You know, I'm not just an American, I'm a French American or an Italian American or an Indian American. We want to hyphenate ourselves because we want to celebrate both parts of our culture. We're proud that we're American, but we're also proud that we come from somewhere else. So the debate really now has become, is the best analogy a melting pot or is maybe a salad bowl? a better analogy, because a salad's not a salad without all of the ingredients, but you can still determine each distinct ingredient. Like, I know a cucumber from a tomato from an olive. I know that they have their own distinct qualities and that they each have their own flavor and that they each have their own texture, but when you put them together into the salad, they make one dish. And so there have been arguments that it's actually maybe a more fitting analogy than the melting pot. Another thing that we're going to see is that all immigrant groups, regardless of where they come from or when they come to the United States, are going to be criticized in similar ways. You know, the mainstream is usually going to view them as too different to successfully become American. They're just too foreign. They're too different. It's a language barrier. It's a cultural barrier. They're never going to make it. So that's usually a common first reaction. And then, of course, there's the economic argument, which is that they're taking jobs away from Americans, or, quote, real Americans. I use quotes here because taking jobs implies that they're jobs that Americans had and wanted, and they were taken from them. And sometimes that happens, but more often than not, the immigrants that are coming in are working in jobs and industries that middle-class Americans don't want to work in or won't work in for a low wage. And then, of course, the concept of what is a real American. There's no such thing as a real American. There's no shape or size or color or ethnicity that fits that. But, of course, the stereotypical real American that you tend to go to is a white Christian. And that may be the real American of centuries past, but that's not the real America of today. And of course, there's the argument that they're a drain on the system, that they cost too much. We've got to educate them. We've got to provide health care. They get social services often to make their adjustment to the new culture. And this is kind of a dicey argument, because that could be true if they don't pay any taxes. And some immigrants that are here illegally don't pay taxes. They're being paid cash. They're being paid off the books. So there's no documentation of what they're being paid, and they're not paying taxes. And sometimes they are receiving these services. But others actually are operating with either fake Social Security numbers or duplicate Social Security numbers, and they're actually paying into a system that they'll never be able to withdraw benefits from. They can't go and claim Social Security checks because they don't have ID to prove that they're that person. So they're never going to be able to collect a Social Security check in their retirement. And in some cases, they won't even be in the country long enough to collect a Social Security check. So no matter which immigrant group you belong to, or your family belonged to, or when they came to the United States, they probably faced a cycle of acceptance that's similar to this. When they arrive, they're judged as being different or worse than the average American. They're going to face some type of discrimination. It can be subtle discrimination, like nobody wanting to sit with them at lunch or nobody wanting to play with them on the playground, to really overt, violent types of discrimination. Eventually, they're going to make adjustments if they're going to stay in the country, and they're going to give up some of their culture to become more American, but then their culture is going to contribute to American culture. And you could see this, I think, just in the last 15 to 20 years with the prevalence of, foods from Latin America being mainstreamed into American culture, music from Latin America being mainstreamed into American culture. And of course, there are unfortunate consequences of that too, like Pitbull. Step 4 is that they're going to feel like a contributing part of the American society. They feel like they're working and that they're moving up and that they're successful and that they're a part of the American experience. And then step 5, unfortunately, is that they may well feel threatened by the newest group of immigrants, and they may turn against that new group of immigrants and become nativists themselves. This is a really interesting phenomenon. Some of the most ardent critics of illegal immigrants in America today are Latinos who have come here legally and who have adjusted and who have assimilated and have become mainstream Americans, who are now railing against this new generation of Latino immigrants coming in. And it seems hypocritical that they would be against it, because they just went through it themselves not that long ago, but they kind of have this attitude like, hey, I did it the right way, I did what I was supposed to do, now you people need to do what you're supposed to do. Think of being a sophomore in high school and looking down on the freshmen. Okay, we have one more screencast to go. The next one will be specific notes about the Chinese and the new immigrants.